So I have the buttercream ready. We have already transferred the image on the cake. You can see the buttercream. I've transferred it on the piping bags. The tip is not cut yet, so it is airtight, and I've just sealed the other side as well. Done that to all the shades that was made. You can see the color is quite deepened, and that's the pitch black. We made it quite till the gray, right? And the red is also quite deepened. Now I'm just going to keep the inspiration image next to the cake, and I'm just going to follow the sections specific to each of the color. Initially, my goal is to fill the colors just within the outline and do not cross the outline for the specific sections of each of the color. So I'm just going to chop off the tip of the piping bag, after which the buttercream will start coming out. Until then, this whole bag was airtight. So now I know this is the hair part. I'm going to start filling, go with the outline. So the first goal is to fill up and stay within the outline of each of the color. So I'm going to fill the outline. So just in case I don't want the streaks that I am putting to go beyond that outline. So I'm just going to make sure I stick within the outline. That is very important. Just in case you're not sure, you could anytime scrape off the buttercream to check if you're staying within the outline. We will smooth the top so the textures or the lines of piping will not be seen. What you will have at the end is a smooth surface of buttercream. So what you pipe now doesn't have to be even. So just stick to the goal. Verify with the inspiration where and which is the outline for the color, whatever you are piping. Now from here, the entire thing until where I've piped here is going to be black. So now I could go in. I'm verifying the rest of the black outline, and I'm going to go and mark the outline first. So near the lip, I'm just going to be a bit more careful to not lose the outline, just in case if I have missed. I could scrape down. Like I said, the wafer paper wouldn't have softened up by that time. So now I have filled in the black, the continuation of the hair, and then it just has gone to the beard, and then we have a continuation all around. Obviously the the other half of the mush is there, and then the eyebrows are there as well. You just need to be really very careful and what I am applying, whether it sticks or stays within the outline. That's very important. So eyes I am going to do it after I fixed most of the other colors. So here I'm just being careful. I'm not even piping, I mean not even putting a lot of pressure. Just added very little for the eyebrow. Okay, so once I'm done with that, the next step I would like to do at this stage itself, because this is the crusting buttercream, right? You can see the lines of the buttercream, and to first soften that up, you just need a bowl of simple water, plain room temperature water, and a palette knife, that is number one. And you can use that, dip the palette knife in water, drip off the excess water, and soften the top. You don't want to do to all the colors and step into this one, because by that time the buttercream will soften up. And it will crust and then it will harden up, not soften. So there are two ways that you can do with the palette knife. You could also do the same step with a brush. Okay, it could be a round or a flat brush. Just dip the brush in water and go on top and then smooth it out. Either ways both works, palette knife and the brush both works. But here make sure as you are softening up, do not go beyond the outline of that particular shade. That's very important. So there are the possibilities that you're just going to smudge it and then cover this cell like that, but then that cell is specific to another shade and you don't want to hide that. So if you find excess that could drop itself to another neighboring cell which is specific for another color, remove off the excess buttercream and just soften up. Okay, so now I'm done with the black, the major black, but there are other places where I will be needing black as well. I will be filling them as I move on to that particular cell. Here you can see the dent that is there. Now by using the brush, if I'm going to continue working there, the possibilities that I will retain that. Now if I just want it flat, then I just need to use the palette knife and then level that area where I feel there are ups and downs. So that way you will have a flat surface where you don't have to create textures, because we are just going to end up having a painting. Again, if you know that you have crossed the outline, scrape off the buttercream from the outline and make sure the color doesn't go into the neighboring cells. Okay, so we have to be finishing a lot of sections. So now I'm going to start filling all the cells with the respective colors. So I'm going to begin with red and continue to fill the entire image with all the colors. After which then I'm going to smooth out the buttercream on the top and then start looking at the image to see for the finer details. the intricate ones, especially near the eyes, lips, and the nose, where we just need to define the features, where that becomes very important. Now, go for the red area. So after filling all the areas with the respective colors, I'm using the palette knife to gently blend the shades to flatten out the surface of the buttercream. And in that process, just need to ensure the colors are not going beyond that outline. So that is very, very important at this stage. Every specific color should just stay within the outline. So use the palette knife very gently and just ensure the surface of the buttercream all together is just flat and even, and you're not having a lot of textures on the top. So each time you're using the palette knife, if it gets dried out or if it's dragging the buttercream from one section to the other, then immediately dip the palette knife in water and gently you use the back of the spatula to gently blend, but make sure the colors are not moving away from that particular section. So I'm going to keep using the brush and the palette knife, alternating as I find it comfortable. And if they are very intricate, then it's better to switch over to the brush. And if you have to flatten out, then use the palette knife and continue to blend the shades, flatten out, making sure each of the section has the respective colors. So the intricate details near the eyes where we need to add finer layers of buttercream, especially the white and the additional detailing like the thin layer of black. It will be difficult to pipe the buttercream directly on the cake because that could get a little thicker. So in those places you need to start using the brush and pipe the buttercream on a plate or a paint palette and pick up the buttercream in very small portions with the tip of the brush and start adding them, looking at the finer details, because working on the eye is very important and you want the eye's detail to be perfect. You can keep the inspiration image next to you and looking at that again, you have to closely watch on what the details are, especially the outline. In case if you feel that you have completely gone beyond a certain outline and then you're not sure how the eyes are turning out, then you could still go over, scrape off that entire section, and then you could start over by filling that particular section with the exact color in each of the sections. So I've been working on the finer details near the eyes to make sure everything is just in place within the outline. I've also added white gel colors to highlight in places where the buttercream is just not going to be too bright and white. And the texture on the top, you can blend the texture and make it soft by using the back of the spatula wherever it is not leveled, and put them in place. And if there are times when the wafer paper that is added on the cake is just lifting from the sides, then you could use water with a brush and then brush it on top. And the rest of the background I have filled it with a BG's color that is in the buttercream, and then on the sides, because it was crumb coated, I have added the same colored buttercream. I could allow it to be in the same marbled effect because what matters is the portrait on the top. So in this entire course you've learned how to first resize the image and put it to the size of the cake that we'd like to work on, and from that image we've learned how to trace the cake using the method that I had shown, where all the intricate details are very important to capture. And from there we had gone to working with the coloring with a pencil to understand the different shades that is present there in the portrait, so we could just go close to understand all the intricate coloring and the shading involved in that particular portrait. After which we moved on to tracing the portrait on wafer paper, and then moved on to the cake itself, where the wafer paper is placed on the cake by adding some water spray so the wafer paper could stick onto the cake. And then we started with the buttercream, coloring the buttercream, and then went ahead to use that particular colored buttercream in each of the sections and blending them to carefully work on to place all the segments color as it is in each of the section. The challenge could come when especially you're working on portrait, on the eyes, nose and the lips. Just make sure you are just sticking to the outline for each of the color and make sure the surface of the buttercream is quite straight and it is not in ups and downs. And times when you know that the American buttercream is crusting, then you know you have to just level them using a small palette knife, so the entire thing comes together. And when there is a place where you have to add very fine details like a thin black line where you have to do the highlight, then it doesn't have to be buttercream. It can be just a gel color mixed with water or a little bit of vodka, and you can just highlight using a very thin brush. It also applies to black or white or any color highlight you would like to add where the lines have to be thin. You don't need to use buttercream. You can just use gel color and go ahead and paint on the surface of the buttercream. Okay, so with this we come to the end of the portrait painting course, where I had shown you how to paint Dhoni's face on the cake, and you could use the same technique to bring any portrait on your cake using the same technique. Thank you.